Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago. I'm Sandra Maraj and C News is live. Topping the news at this time, Chief Executive Officer of the American Chamber of Commerce of Trinidad and Tobago, Nirad Tiwari, says the economic situation calls for more sectors to improve efficiency. Pointing at monies spent on education, health and national security over the years, Mr. Tiwari questions the effectiveness of the investments made over the years.
These billions of dollars in each ministry, but on those three in particular, can we get more for less? We think we can. We heard very little about technology adaptation. We heard very little about the integration of technology into the way government is going to do things, and we heard very little about innovation and research and development generally.
Mr. Tiwari said the increased need for efficiency was imperative given the increase in taxes. The Trinidad and Tobago Automotive Dealers Association is pleading with the Minister of Finance to reconsider the reduction of exemptions on hybrid vehicles. President of the association, Visham Babwa, says the change will cause prices to skyrocket.
And with the increase in the fuel right now, I think these vehicles have to become more affordable. With this increase in taxes, these vehicles have now become more costly than non-hybrid vehicles. So the minister has to revisit this policy.
Vice President of the association, Rundle Fields, believes the announcement is a backward step to a measure which promised improved environmental standards in the country.
Now, as this has been removed and the subsidy has been removed also, what are poor people to do? Also, the protection of the environment. The Ministry of Trade, the Ministry, the Consumer Affairs, they are heavy on protection of environment. This measure that was put in place was one of the first modern automotive measures put in place to protect our environment. I hope the minister and I hope the ministry considered these things. They didn't consult with us, they didn't ask our input.
Commuters who travel in red band maxis may have to pay higher fares by the end of the month. According to President of the Route 2 Maxi Taxi Association, Linus Phillip, the red band maxi drivers are to meet next week to discuss the fare in light of the increase of diesel. Diesel was increased from $2.30 to $3.41 following Monday's budget presentation. In a brief phone interview, Mr. Phillips said a fare increase was likely by the end of the month. The maxi fare was last increased in 2014. On Tuesday, C News learned maxi taxi drivers plying the route from Point Fortin to San Fernando and vice versa planned to raise fares by $2 from $8 to $10. Mr. Phillip also said the association was awaiting an explanation of the minister's announced removal of restriction on banded maxi taxis. The Board of Tourism Trinidad was invested today with their letters of appointment. The Minister of Tourism, Shamfa Kojo, reminded the guests that two companies now handle the tourism product of this land. One for Tobago, the Tobago Tourism Agency, under the authority of the Tobago House of Assembly, and Trinidad Tourism, which will handle all tourism here. She noted that the government, not satisfied with this split, has also established a body to raise standards in this industry.
The government has decided to establish the Regulatory and Licensing Authority dedicated specifically for tourism, developing standards in tourism and enforcing standards throughout the sector. We have been working with the Arthur Luckjack Institute on doing these consultations, interacting with the stakeholders in order to establish the right strategy and the right framework for basic, mandatory, no longer voluntary standards within the tourism sector.
The new chair of the board, Janelle Penny-Kamiziong, said two words will guide the new Trinidad Tourism Board.
As you were speaking, two words just kept coming to me, and the two words were opportunity and challenge. And I think I speak on behalf of the board when I say that we will approach this with these two words in mind, opportunity and challenge. Having served on one of the tourism boards a year ago for about 3 years through with another administration, I think I can speak to, or I understand the challenges that the ministry would have had in putting this all together, putting the new entity together, or the direction for a new entity.
Ms. Commission also said one of the major products is just having a good time. She said it's a major product that the board will focus on and develop as a quality offering for the incoming tourist. Well, this is the C News Live report at noon. Remember, you can keep up to date with all the latest news on our website at ctvtt.com, or you can check out our Facebook and Twitter pages at C News Live. Continuing with the news, Minister of Finance Colum Imbert said despite the naysayers and objections regarding decisions made in the budget, government expenditure has decreased by billions, and the Finance Minister projects growth in the coming months should citizens cooperate with the government. Sherilyn Lewis has this report.
Finance Minister Colum Imbert said we can't allow multinational companies to extract our resources and not pay their taxes and royalties. That's why he has imposed a 12.5% tax increase on energy companies.
It makes no sense to allow the energy sector companies to continue to extract our hydrocarbons, which are the people's resources, and pay no tax. And that's why, if you look across the world, look in the Russian Federation, you look in the United Kingdom, you look in the Middle East, the concept of a royalty comes into play, because that's a tax on gross.
In fact, Minister Imbert stressed that for all those who are concerned about the budget deficit, they need to be aware that the government has saved $13 billion in expenditure thus far.
$13 billion reduction. Which private company could reduce their expenditure by 20-25% and still be in business? One of the things that people have told us is perhaps we're doing too good of a job. People are not feeling it. So we reduced expenditure from 63 billion to 50 billion. The country is still running. We took $13 billion out of public expenditure, and the country is still running.
As for gas revenues, the minister said we lost billions and may only stand to earn back a portion of what was lost.
We have to get people to understand that we've lost $20 billion in revenue. 20 billion, of which you may recover maybe 5. And that's why I made the point. We have a false economy where people demand expenditure, including everybody in this room, because it is not correct to say that the economy is not driven by the government. Everybody in this room, to a large extent, depends on government expenditure for their businesses. It is just not correct to say these things.
Additionally, the minister noted that Petrotrin is a net earner and earned up to $2 million per annum. This was government's justification for the 12.5% tax increase on royalties. Sherilyn Lewis, C News.
The trade union movement is rejecting the Budget 2018 presentation, saying that government's approach is not theirs. Head of the Oilfields Workers Trade Union, Ansel Roger, believes the present administration is out to fool the populace.
Another step, and one could perhaps say the final step before the presentation of the budget, to prepare the minds of the people, to condition the minds of the people, that, hey, listen, you have no choice but to bear the burden of the sacrifice. This yoke of the sacrifice must rest squarely on the necks of ordinary people.
Mr. Roger says the union has no objection to taxing any class. However, he believes protections for the ordinary citizens should be put in place.
It's okay to tax the rich, you know. It's okay to tell us that everybody going to get taxed, you know. But if you did not put mechanisms in place to protect the poor and ordinary citizens, the vulnerable, working people, people who are being sent home on a daily basis, if you did not put mechanisms in place to ensure that they don't pass that on to the population, well then what in fact you do? You hit us a double whammy.
The OWU president says all of the budget measures are modeled off of IMF prescriptions, and the ordinary citizen will suffer while the 1% will continue to thrive. More taxes may have been allocated in their direction, but Mr. Roger says in the end, they will not be paying them but passing them on to consumers. Commuters are advised that there will be a restricted traffic flow along the Lady Young Road as a land slippage has occurred. The landslide took place just after the Hilton Hotel, blocking one lane of the road. Work is being done to clear the landslip. However, at the time of this newscast, it's advised to avoid traffic that people choose an alternative route to the Lady Young Road. Well, let's take a look at the weather now for the period this afternoon and tonight. Trinidad and Tobago will see brisk afternoon showers, mainly along hilly areas in few areas, and which will interrupt afternoon sunshine to give way to a mostly clear night. Seas are expected to be normal with waves up to 2 meters in open waters and below 1 meter in sheltered areas. Casino workers say they fear massive job losses after the new taxation is imposed. A statement from the Vice President of the Union of Members Clubs and Lottery Workers, Sean Clark, notes there are over 9,000 direct employees currently working in the industry, most of whom are single mothers who have limited education and live in depressed communities. He says the union strongly disagrees and rejects the plan to impose a gaming tax of over 100%. Meanwhile, the TNT Members Club Association say they have written letters requesting an urgent meeting with the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister to discuss the taxes and their implications on the industry. The association says there's been an immediate downsizing of some large local casino operators present, with the immediate correspondent reduction in staffing requirements. They say in a meeting held today, there was also the announcement by some small operators present of immediate closure and termination of all staff. The man dubbed as a committed servant of the people, an icon in education and a true compatriot, was celebrated at his funeral yesterday. Clive Pantin, who was 84, died around 1 a.m. last Saturday at his home at Anna Street, Woodbrook, after a prolonged illness. From a staunch Roman Catholic family, Mr. Pantin served Trinidad and Tobago with distinction for more than 5 decades. Marie-Therese Bernard has this report.
A church full of family, friends and dignitaries gathered to say goodbye to son of the soil, Clive Pantin. A man of down-to-earth spirit who lifted up his fellow man was the way that his son Bernard described him. From priestly ambitions to teacher to politician who truly served his fellow citizens, Clive Pantin will be remembered as the man whom many knew and loved greatly. His son Bernard Pantin highlighted the stuff his father was made of.
When Clive visited Jeff at the hospital just hours before he passed away in 2010, he said to him, "You are a lucky man. You are going to see our God," and expressed his own jealousy that he had to wait. That simply summed up how he saw life: service to man in the service of God.
Pantin's work in the community inspired the growth of innovative projects, always geared to helping people. He used his position as principal of Fatima to move students ahead. The President and the Prime Minister were only two of the many who came to pay their respects and say farewell to this fellow national who inspired communities and roused the hearts of many to serve. Father Gregory, celebrant at the ceremony, noted that Clive wanted a share of the good life for all.
He was a classic servant statesman. In the ilk of Mandela and Julius Nyerere and Gandhi, he was our statesman. He was our servant. But in all of it, Clive remained an uncomplicated man.
And when the final anointing was done by the Archbishop Joseph Harris, his fellow brothers, students, payers and old Fatima boys all joined in a rousing farewell, with the alma mater of Fatima College ushering him home. Marie-Therese Bernard, C News.
Several animals were today blessed during a special service at the Trinidad and Tobago Police Mounted and Canine Branch in St. James this morning. The animals were blessed during a special service in remembrance of St. Francis of Assisi, the patron saint of animals, and his love for them. Along with the horses and dogs of the police service, Several pet owners brought their pets to be blessed at the special mass. The video for the late Devon Matthews' The Journey was officially released on Tuesday. The video features shots of Matthews as well as his collaborator on the track, Ella Andel. Matthews died suddenly on July 15th after collapsing backstage at Clive's band launch.
Remember the days of tossing water, anytime that you have to bid.
But two strong national squads, male and female, have been chosen to represent Trinidad and Tobago at the upcoming 2017 Indoor Pan American Cup, which will be held in Georgetown, Guyana from October 16th to the 21st. Both squads have been hard in training, preparing for these championships, where they hope to give a very good account of themselves and represent Trinidad and Tobago well. Both teams are laden with some familiar names and some fresh blood added with the future in mind. Alana Lewis leads the women's team and can count on notables like Ariel Williams, Amanda George, Blair Wynn and Chrysia Lane for support as they battle for medals at these prestigious championships. The men's team is also loaded and Solomon Eccles will lead them into battle and will be supported by the likes of Dwayne Kwan Chan, Akim Toussaint, Michael Pear, Kristen Vieira and Kristen Emmanuel, among others. They will have to pull out all the stops as they seek a podium finish among some of the best teams in the region. Well, the countdown is well and truly on for Wednesday night's big cycling on the Avenue 6 event, which has again attracted riders and teams from all over the world. Another bumper crowd is expected to converge on Ariapita Avenue on Wednesday night to witness the action, where several teams will test the conditions and each other for some handsome prizes, including the TT $10,000 for the winner of the main event.
We have the endurance event, which is the main event, but for those of you who think that you may be faster off the blocks than others, there's a 200-meter standing start power sprint, and also there's a 2-lap sprint. So that is going to be 3 per team that you're going to be able to participate in that event. Of course, the main event is carded for 35 laps, but we've been having, I wouldn't call it a problem, we've been having a little bit of an issue of people calling in and wanting to sponsor more lap prizes. So we may very well have to lengthen the race if it is that we have more lap prizes coming in.
Well, Philip says that several people and companies have flooded his office with offers to sponsor lap prizes in the main event, which only serves to heighten the excitement among both the riders and spectators alike. But there's more racing this time around as well.
Just about, we have over 60 riders that have signed up for that event. And of course, there's the category 2 and 3 race. So we recognize that some of the riders who may be in Cat 2 on the road, whereas before they would have had to enter that main event only, we have a race for them as well, and any winners from that would be invited to the main race.
Big wins for the Saints, both at St. Mary's College and St. Anthony's College, as they scored identical 4-win victories over St. Augustine and Faizabad respectively. While the Westmoreland Tigers were taking care of business against their southern counterparts, the blue and white Giants made home field advantage count and chalked up their 2nd win of the season.
The Saints took the lead on 21 minutes in a strange fashion, but they all count, and Trey Lamont claimed it after the keeper's initial mistake. And they would double up in the 38th when Tyree Spicer finishes in style to give the Saints a good cushion at the interval. But St. Augustine came firing back in the second half and carved out some good looks at goal. But they had to wait until the 53rd for their reward, and it was worth the wait. Eton Bonaparte with the goal of the game to make it 2-1. They came close again moments later, but they couldn't convert. However, they kept probing and had their chances to draw level, but they just couldn't finish the deal.
but the Saints would weather the storm and struck a real body blow in the 64th when Gabriel Nanton scored against the run of play to increase St. Mary's lead. They would complete the scoring in the 82nd when Kevin Alonso added his name to the score sheet to help St. Mary's register a big result. There was no further scoring in this one, but not for a lack of trying, as the action was end-to-end right to the final whistle, as this one ended 4-1 to St. Mary's College, who climbed to 8 points, while Gustin slipped to 5th on 13 points after they were passed by St. Anthony's, who reached 14 points.
Well, that's it for sport. Well, that's the C News report at noon. I'm Sandra Mirage, and remember, for up-to-date and breaking news throughout the day, visit the C News website at ctvtt.com. Do have a wonderful afternoon.